I hate to say this, but I was right. I told you this was going to happen. I talked about it in one of my most recent sit down videos, and I also talked about recently live with RTT Guns and Gear. Every town for gun safety is going after Ruger now. Yes. Why? Because of the Ruger RXM and the claim that it can be converted into a machine gun with a Glock switch. I'll tell you, it's not like you have to have a crystal ball to see this is coming. I mean, the anti-gun establishment, they tend to do this sort of thing. Once they get taste of blood, they tend to go after for the kill on whoever they can get. Now, as you guys know, Glock recently announced they were discontinuing all of their previous generation model of Glock handguns, Glock Gens 1 through 5, including the MOS stuff, in order to make this new Glock V version that was supposed to be all kinds of new enhanced features, but really it was just a new design to alter it enough where you can't use a Glock switch that you buy off of Temu from China. We don't hold the criminal responsible, we hold the manufacturer responsible for criminal activity. It makes sense of it, right? Um, yeah, so in my video where I talked about that whole situation as it unfolded, Glock was facing a lot of pressure from different lawsuits across multiple states. You can agree or disagree that what they did with this Glock V idea was the right decision. I'm not going to discuss that. We've already had one or two videos talking about that. Right now we're talking about Ruger because Ruger is on the chopping block. So this is it. This is from Everytown from Gun Safety. As you can see here, they are going after them for the Ruger RXM. Essentially their version of a Glock handgun that uses a sort of a fire control unit system, much similar to the P320 does. Of course, they mentioned Glock here in a few different places. Just talking about how Glock more or less caved in and went ahead and pulled all of their models that could take Glock switches. They talk about how the RXM pistol can be converted into a machine gun just like Glocks can. They even have little pictures here that they pulled up. They even go into the actual design of the RXM, talking about how they're so similar. And then they even found some clips of a video showing how he was able to install the Glock switch into a Ruger RXM. Again, made by someone in China, sold through Temu or Alibaba. They talk about how this is a huge risk. They're talking about how Ruger's sale of the RXM is a significant threat. And, oh, not just a significant threat, a significant litigation risk. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like they're hinting at that, hey, if you don't play ball, we're going to get a bunch of states lined up to actually come after you too. So, very cool. Very awesome, Everytown. And of course, they also copied it to the CEO of Magpul, because as you know, Ruger and Magpul essentially did a collaboration to make the RXM happen in the first place. So why are they doing this? I talked about in one of my most recent sit-down videos about how now that Glock is making this change, what's going to happen to third parties. I mentioned a bunch of different companies. Like I mentioned Shadow Systems, PSA, Palmetto State Armory, with their whole dagger thing they got. And I also did have to mention the Ruger RXM, and sure enough, here it is. The other shoe has dropped, and now we see Everytown for gun safety and all these other anti-gunners just going after whoever they think they can go after to make them discontinue their guns as well. So it's not like you have to have a high IQ or no 4D chess or anything to see this coming. It's obvious. This is what they do. If it works one time with one manufacturer, they're going to try and do it to every single one of them. And this is interesting because they could have gone with a different company, but they chose Ruger. Why did they choose Ruger? I have my suspicions. Number one, recently Ruger was called in to testify a couple of years ago over the Uvalde incident that happened. They called in Daniel Defense, and they also called in Christopher Killoy of Sturm Ruger and Company, who they both did push back on some things that I guess you call testimony, whatever. But they also kind of gave in a little bit. Like, for example, I know Daniel Defense actually came out and said that they don't support the abolishment of the ATF. I can't remember what Ruger said in that testimony. Maybe somebody can remind me, but they may have said something similarly as Dale Defense did. But of course, this is not their first time dealing with politicians, or for that matter, anti-gun groups. But why Ruger? I think it's because Ruger is a publicly traded company. Check out TradingView here. Not a sponsor, but I like to check out stocks on there from time to time. Let's look up Ruger and see how they are doing. They are on the... We'll try to get this so you can see everything. It's kind of difficult. This is on a one-day time scale. Let me make this a little bit easier for you to see. Has this really affected their stock? Not really. These are all one-day candles. So you can actually see here in the last day, it has actually shot up in the last couple of days. Very interesting. Do I think people are suddenly buying Ruger firearms? No, I don't. I'm just saying that it's not really had an impact on them as a company. Now, obviously, overall, they are significantly down. These are 1 week candles. So, you know, it could get better. Could get worse too, though. It's kind of the nature of stocks in the first place. So, I think because they are a publicly traded company, I think that every Town for Gun Safety is thinking to themselves that they can actually push Ruger a little bit more easily because their shareholders will maybe want similar demands, like to discontinue or change the Ruger RXM. Doubt it, but, you know, depends on who's holding the stock, I guess. So it's just interesting because, I mean, after the Glock thing was announced and happened, it became pretty obvious the next following question would obviously be, what about all the third-party companies that have their own version of a Glock? Again, Shadow Systems, PSA, Dagger, and as we mentioned here, the Ruger RXM. I'll keep my eye on this story as it progresses. I just find it kind of interesting because it just goes to show you, and I hate to make it a political thing, but it's always the case. I want to say anytime you give the left an inch, they'll take a mile. But really, it's Republicans, too. I mean, both sides of the aisle, if you give a politician an inch, they will take a mile. Hell, they'll take the whole damn runway if they can. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think about this situation? Do you think they're going to cave? Do you think they're going to bend the knee? Do you think they're going to make sudden changes just like Glock did? We'll find out. We will see you next time.